All right, Shalom Akim, start this lesson. I do want to give all praise and all glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Kakadash. Double honor to our apostles and elders, great millstone that taught us the truth. Peace and blessing to the sincere Akim that's pushing this truth. And all truth and sincerity are on the four corners of the earth to lead you. I say Shalom. Okay, this is your brother Uriah Ariel from the Great Mostar Miami Camp. I come back to the spirit power of Yahweh Bahashem Shai just to make another lesson. Okay, and this lesson was inspired by, a video by Apostle Tahar. Okay, and he was going into, persecution. Okay, and he was going into how, Northern Kingdom, when they going into these concentration camps, all right, when he's going into when Northern Kingdom goes into these concentration camps, there was a video of this. Okay, you see a Northern tribe woman, and she looked like Northern Kingdom. Okay, but nonetheless, she was going into the conditions of her when she got captured by Esau. Okay, in those detention camps, and seeing she was going into the living conditions, okay, and how the living conditions were terrible inside of that camp, and how they was giving her water, and she was getting treated terribly, okay. And what made me to bring this lesson is that seeing how they did that to, going into like ice and all that stuff, how much more the men of the Lord, okay, how much more the men of the Lord that are going to go through persecution. Okay, the men that have to be going that are going to have to get put in these camps, these concentration camps. All right, now they're just doing it for deportation, or they're doing it for free labor. All right, but they know that there are a lot of eyes on them, watching them when it comes to these, what certain events that they're doing. Okay, now when it comes to a men of the Lord, the men that's been prophesying against Babylon, which is America, Esau going to come way harder. Okay, and we read about how men got tortured and thrown in jail for for preaching this gospel. Okay, and we understand that there's nothing new under the sun. Okay, so Esau's gonna come with some shit when it comes to this persecution. Okay, when it comes to trying to torture the men of the Lord, Esau is going to do as much as he can to try to make you change your mind or make you say something or try to make you crack. Okay, because he understands that we have the truth. All right, and we believe in Yahweh Shimon Shai. So us believing in the Lord, all right, us having that faith in, you know, Yahweh Bashim Shai, okay, that's what's gonna keep us in those times, man. Not bound the need to Esau Edom. All right, that's what's gonna keep us in these times to come. All right, so this devil is gonna come with all types of ways of torture and all these things to try to make us, crack. But that's why we have to hold our integrity and remain strong in Yahweh Bashim Shai. Okay, but I got a few more precepts, just a few, further edify the point going into, okay, this persecution and what Esau is going to bring us to, man. All right, this is Revelation chapter 2 and verse 10, and it says, "For none of the things which thou shalt suffer, behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that ye may be tried, and ye shall have tribulation 10 days, but be faithful to death, and I will give thee a crown of life." That's right, man. Okay, so the scriptures already told us that, okay, he's going to cast some of us into prison. All right, the scriptures told us of what's going to happen, man. But the scriptures say to what be faithful unto death. All right, have faith unto death, man, because there's going to be some men that are going to have to be, perish in those times, man. All right. This is First Peter 4 and verse 1, and it says, "So then, since Mashiach suffered physical pain, you must arm yourself with the same attitude he had, and be ready to suffer it too, for you have suffered physically for Mashiach, you have finished sin." Okay? But understanding that, and I believe the NLT, it's like, but, just to edify the point, okay, we understand that, Yahweh Shai went through, physical pain, man, physical torture, man. He got beat with whips, he got tortured. All right, so we understand that Yahweh Shai himself did go through physical trials as well. So and servant is not greater than his master, so expect okay, the men of the Lord to be in that same predicament. Seeing how he's treating Northern Kingdom in these in these camps. All right, when it comes to the men of the Lord, he's going to try to do everything, man. He's going to try to exceed it than what it's supposed to be because we understand who we working with, the devil, and we understand that, and he understands that he's at the end of his rulership. So him knowing that he's at the end of his rulership, he's going to try and do everything in his power and his might, okay, to try and he's going to do everything in his power and might, okay, to try to get us to change our perspective or change or what we stand on. But that's where you having your faith, you believing in the Lord, is where you're supposed to hold your integrity and stand firm in Yahweh Shemel Shai. Okay, because the last thing you want to do is forward, and at the last end. All right, that's why we ought to read these stories of the Maccabee brothers. Okay, those that went through multiple obstacles and multiple trials. All right, and when tribulation and persecution was presented in front of them, okay, they didn't bow the knee. Okay, and that's how we have to be, man. Even if we're going through torture, and the Lord might make it to where you might not even feel the torture, you might not even feel the physical pain, but that's where your faith has to come in play because you know when you're presenting these things, your flesh is going to be willing to try to give up. All right, but that's where your faith has to overcome your flesh because if you just give into your flesh, you're going to crack, man. All right, and that's what Esau wants to do. He wants to, you know, bring it to a point where you feel like you have to take that seat, okay? And that's where you're supposed to really be, stand firm in Yahweh Shimei Shai. Okay, really have your feet grounded in Yahweh Shimei Shai, man. All right, because we don't want to have that mindset of, we had the opportunity to be delivered, but we chose to, please our flesh. Okay, this is just jumping on to, I'm gonna go to Isaiah 59 and verse 15. It says, "Yea, truth faileth, it's like it. Truth faileth, and he that departed from evil make himself a prey." That's right, man. Just because we departed from evil, okay, the evil in this world, okay, we made ourselves a prey. All right, family members seen that we, we're different. Friends seen that we changed. All right, Esau seen that, we on the highways and byways. So now we are become prey. And the Lord saw it and displeased him that were slacking. And the Lord saw it and it displeased him that was no judgment. He saw that there was no man, no, and wondered that there was no intercessor. Therefore his arm brought salvation unto him and his righteousness. It sustained him. For he put on the righteousness as a breastplate and a helmet of salvation upon his head. He put on the garment of vengeance for clothing and a clad the seal as a cloak. According to their deeds, accordingly, he will repay fury to his adversaries, recompense to his enemies, to the islands he will recompense. So shall they fear the name of the Lord from the west, and the glory from the rising of the sun. The enemy shall come in like a flood. The spirit of the Lord shall lift up a standard against him. That's right, man. Okay. All right, Yahweh is gonna repay, you know, and recompense to his enemies, man, to our enemies. All right, that fury that the Lord has, he still has that fury, man. Okay, it's not like okay, just because he's not physically here that he just forgot about everything. That the Lord just forgot about everything. No, one day to the Lord, is as 1,000 years. So that was just yesterday to Yahweh Shem Shai. Okay, but going on too, when this persecution comes and when all when all these things start to happen, man, the Lord gonna lift up a standard, man. The Lord gonna show you that He's dealing with you. So that persecution may come, you may be in a concentration camp, but the Lord gonna show you He with you, man. Okay, it's not gonna be an increase on the right, on the left hand side, and the right hand side is not gonna be nothing. No, all right, the Lord gonna give you things to show you that I'm with you. He's gonna give you spiritual power. He's gonna give you certain things that's gonna show that the Lord is dealing with you. Okay, that's and that's part of this thing too. People just we can't be in a mindset of worrying about the persecution that's coming and oh man, what I'm gonna do, what I'm gonna do. Well, ultimately, think that the Lord ultimately in mind that man, the Lord gonna be with me. Okay, and also the Lord being with you, the Lord gonna give you that increase. Okay, give you that increase of faith, give you that increase of whether that spiritual power that you may need in that time, and you having that spiritual power is gonna what boost your faith. All right, this not gonna only be a one sided battle, man. The Lord's gonna help you. Okay, you just can't fold too early, man. Okay, you just can't crack. As soon as you get into the concentration camp, for those that have to be in there, okay, you just start overthinking and start bugging out. No, reverence the Lord. Understand that the Lord is your help and that's your guide to salvation. Okay, and I got one last precept. This is Matthew 26, verse 41. It says, "Watch and pray that ye enter not into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak." That's right, man. And it's rather and that's how was Shy speaking, man. Okay, scripture says that, okay, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. That's why it's going to be a constant battle when when those that have to be put in the concentration camps get snatched up, man. Because it's going to be a constant battle, man. But you have to overcome that battle because that's going to be the last battle till the Lord give you that upgrade, man. So, brothers, keep on fighting, keep enduring. Understand that this persecution is going to get even more worse, man. So get ready for it. And always keep the Lord, in your mind, constantly reverence these old scriptures. Okay, even when you are in times of trouble. Okay, go, thinking about the stories that that the Lord had. Okay, to His men, or where they got delivered, man. So, Lord, this lesson is edifying. Okay, with that, I do and give all praise and honor, glory to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem, Kakodash. Double on the star apostles and others of great Wilson that taught us His truth. Peace and blessing to the sincere alchems. With that, I do want to say.